Unless you've been living under a rock lately, you've read and seen all the chatter about how bad the real estate market is at the moment. First of all, as it relates to our capacity within the industry as real estate photographers, the bad market narrative just isn't true. Not completely anyway. It is true that in my fourth quarter of 2022, I had the lowest gross sales of any quarter in 4 years. Well, that was a problem. In fact, there's a lot of opportunity for us in a market like this, just ripe for the picking. And that's why I just used the past tense. It was a problem for me. And my name is Brian Roberts. I'm a full-time commercial photographer making 6 figures shooting real estate. And today I have 3 tips which will allow you to do the same in 2023. Welcome to Loud&Clear. Now, if you're a journeyman real estate photographer or just someone looking to get into real estate photography, I completely understand how you think the sky is falling right now. After all, mass media runs on advertising, and nothing gets those clicks like an impending crash. We literally can't look away. So you get creators like this. I mean, just look at some of the faces these guys are making. In fairness, many of these creators have done a good job justifying their position, but the reason I'm blast moding these guys a bit is because it's important for you to realize that I'm not a YouTuber. I'm a real estate photographer. I make nearly 100% of my income as a photographer, and the vast majority of that is shooting homes for sale. I'm not here to clickbait you, get you to buy any system or agenda. I'm here to educate and give back. So how then do I plan to make even more in 2023 than in 2022? Well, I'm glad you asked. These past few years, real estate photography has been a great business to get into. And indeed, there have been tons of new photographers entering interiors photography. The pie really has been big enough for all of us. And these new photographers haven't really had to sell much, nor have they really had to hone their craft. Just being present often has been enough because these houses have been selling very quickly anyway. For those of us who are already established, the easy pickings has made us a bit lazy. So here are 3 tips to turn that around and make even more money in 2023. Numero uno, this has to do with your position relative to others in your market. You will do better in this market being the high-end option. You will do better in this market being the high-end option. You will do better in this market being the high-end option. It's absolutely okay to, and you should be, trading on value, but never, ever trade on price. Trading on price is a path to poverty. First of all, you're not going to be making enough for this to be a sustainable business unless you're also cool with working 80-hour weeks. Secondly, when your whole thing is being cheaper than the next guy or gal, guess what? Those are the agents you attract to. And when the new, cheaper photographer becomes an option for them, there they go. And the third reason you should always be the high-end option and never trade on price has to do with perceived value. If you're too cheap, you're only going to attract the bottom feeder agents shooting the dumpiest properties in the worst parts of town. Luxury agents who often spend well over $1,000 for me to shoot one of their listings are not going to take you seriously. And they shouldn't, because for you to make a living $100 at a time means you'll be blowing through jobs and delivering junk. So, foundational tip number 1, be the high-end option. Tip 2, spent time is an investment. So stop trying to account for it today. And I'm guilty of this one too. It's easy to fall into the trap of amortizing your time against your income to discover or target how much money per hour you are or want to be making. The truth of it, though, is that being generous with your time now makes it more valuable in the future. Let me give you a practical example of this from my own business. When I was starting out about 5 years ago, I would charge, I think at the time, like $220 to shoot an average tract home, which actually was kind of a middle ground for my market at the time. But what I told my clients, and indeed what my goal was and is to make their listing the best looking one in the area. And if I couldn't accomplish that, I wasn't interested in taking the job. Now, don't confuse this with me saying something vain like I'm the greatest photographer ever. I know that's not the case, and I would never even imply such a thing. What I am saying is that more than any of my competitors, I was and still am willing to be generous enough with my time to ensure I'm delivering a product to that agent that will be effective. Often, that can't be done quickly, no matter how good you are. It takes time. And because of that generosity of my own with my time, I attracted bigger and bigger clients. So, tip 2, be generous with your time. Tip 3, find the holes. As we get into it, this tip is a bit more speculative than the rest, but stay with me because I have good reason to think this is true. Remember how I said there's been a lot of new real estate photographers entering the industry of late? Well, that part is absolutely true. I've met a ton of them. But what also is true is that a lot of these newer real estate photographers are refugees from portraiture, especially weddings. As this business of real estate photography exploded in 2020 with lockdown, and it really did, simultaneously, wedding photography was tanking as people were no longer gathering. Real estate photography became the dangling carrot, and a good amount of these wedding photographers jumped in, kind of. Having no experience in this industry, they never had a real true foundation to build on. They just needed to pay the bills. And don't get me wrong, I respect the heck out of anyone who can pivot like that to do so. But now, late 2022, the same thing with those two industries is happening, but in reverse. The real estate stuff is both slowing and saturated, and weddings are on the rebound in a big way as people are no longer distancing. Add to that, wedding photographers, they're just a different breed. They don't like this stuff. They like portraiture, so away they go. And those are the holes that you are going to fill as a high price but high value photographer, being extremely generous with your time. And I guarantee with those 3 tips, you'll be building a foundation as strong as granite. If you found any value here, I'd love to have you around as part of my foundation. I have a lot of great content planned for 2023, so hit that like, subscribe, the bell, all that stuff. Be sure to leave a comment suggesting what topics you'd like me to cover, and I'll see you soon. Peace.